Just about a week or so ago, I came across this email, which is basically a recommendation mail that comes from Quora. And the title of that thread or that email read, though Nissan Kicks is such a good car, why is that everyone is avoiding that car, or why is that car a flop? It sort of rang a lot of bells in my head, and I was like wondering, like, why do even people think that Nissan Kicks is a flop, and why isn't that people are going for that car? And I thought, like, let me probably make a video because I myself own one car, and a spoiler alert, I really love that car. It's a fantastic car. Let's get started with why I bought Nissan Kicks and what are the positives I see in this car, what are the negatives, and what are the modifications I probably have done to my car, which is sort of minimal, and things around it. First of all, let me try to answer one big question, which is why did I go for Nissan Kicks and no other brand, and not any other brand or any specific model? Um, Basically, the previous car that I owned was a Volkswagen Polo, and I had it for about like nine years, and it's a hatchback. So for me personally, I felt that over a period of time, it started I started feeling that the lack of space, be it for the people sitting in the back or even the luggage space, that being a major concern. So I sort of thought, like, there were a few things which I had in my mind when I wanted to go for that upgrade. First thing is it had to be spacious. That was one of my key criteria. I didn't wanted my car to be too big. I didn't wanted a bigger car like something like a Innova or Ford Endeavor or any of those type of sized cars. Thirdly, I wanted it to be slightly more powerful than what I already had. So I was coming from around the 1000 cc type of range. So I wanted at least like a 1500 cc vehicle, which was one of my primary requirement. I wanted my car to look good, and I wanted my car to be unique. I didn't want to have a vehicle which every other person out on the roads have. So when I actually took my Polo, which was way back in 2011, this was the first generation of Volkswagen Polo, and hardly anyone had this particular car that time. And this was like, I mean, I would say about November of 2011, and people felt that spending 7.5 lakhs, or probably I think with all the upholstery upgrade, spending 8 lakhs on a car then way back in 2011 was way too costly, and I could have probably picked up a i20 or Swift or something similar to that. But I went for Polo because I knew the quality would be very good. And as I told you, I wanted a car which was different. I didn't want to have a car which everyone has it. So now let's quickly look at what are the options that I had, and why I didn't consider them. And let me also tell you one thing: I didn't want too much of an expensive car because I knew why I'll be using the car, where I'll be using, and how frequently I'll be using it. And that's the reason why. And also the place where I stay, it's not that I have a luxury of parking a huge car here, or Bangalore city is not that parking friendly city. So even if I have to drive down about a kilometer down the road to Malaysia on main road, there is hardly any place I get to even park a hatchback. Forget about parking a bigger car. So that thing was running in my mind, and I didn't wanted a seven seater or anything. Though I had Innova Krista in my mind, for some reason over a period of time I just dropped it. So I didn't wanted any seven seater. So Innova Krista and Marazzo got dropped in the very first lot itself. The next set of cars that I had in my mind was the XUV 500 or the XUV 300. The XUV 500 was good, and XUV 300 was something new that was just coming out last year, and I somehow felt XUV 500 is slightly too big for what I wanted, and also everyone had XUV 500, and I see, like, you go out, you see quite a lot of XUV 500 on the road, so I sort of dropped it. Next set was the Hyundai Creta and the Venue. Again, two slightly different sizes, but again, quite a lot of people had Creta, and it had almost become like on a given day, if you're driving for about like an hour, you'll see about some 20, 30 Creta on the road. So it had become so saturated. Everyone wanted Creta because it's a good car, and I have no complaints about that car. So I sort of felt like, why do I become the sheep here and follow what everyone else is taking? The next set of cars that I had in my mind was Jeep Compass. Jeep is something which, like, from the day it got launched about 2 years back, and I was tracking it and all the stuff. But and size, everything was okay. It's a very good car technically and build wise, everything it's very good. But I somehow felt that the price point was not justified for me. Paying something like a 24 lakhs for a, probably I would say like a higher end model of Jeep Compass is something I was not ready for. To be honest with you, I had capped myself to about like that 15 lakh range that I would like to pay for the car that I'm buying. So I didn't want to go anywhere around the 25 or anything 20 plus at all. So then I sort of had a look at Hector, MG Hector. Fortunately, a showroom opened up very close to my house, and we actually went, saw the car. Again, felt it was slightly too big, and second thing was the price. At the point of me going and checking out the car, the price was not announced. But by the time I picked up my car, I realized that the price of the Hector was slightly more than what I wanted. The last two options were Harrier. Harrier is a Tata product. Not that I'm against Tata or anything, but somehow I felt that I was not too convinced with picking up the Harrier. It's a good, big, comfortable car, and it's spacious. It sort of had that Land Rover kind of DNA implanted into this Harrier. I personally liked it. I was sort of okay, but somehow in the last minute I felt like, okay, no Tata Harrier, so I just stepped aside from Harrier. The last option that I had was the Duster, and I had driven the Duster recently, one of my friends' Duster, and I was totally happy with the way the car is and everything. And there was a newer model that was coming up, the 2019 model also that was coming up, and fortunately or coincidentally, there was a blue color of the Duster that was coming up. Then again, I felt that Duster is one car which is there with so many people, and I sort of had it higher on the priority, but again I was thinking twice, like, should I go for Dust or not? That's the point when I was like on the verge of deciding, like, all the cars are like this, what do I pick up? There is no option. I didn't want to go for any other car. That's exactly when one of the days I was on I was in the petrol bunk pretty close to MG Road, and I was getting my car refueled, and I saw this beautiful gray car. It was sort of like a mini SUV or a crossover car. It had come for refueling. That's what I would say, like, love at first sight. And at first, I couldn't recognize what car that was, and it took me a while. I completed my refueling. I went ahead. I saw the front of the car. It had the Nissan badge in the front. I couldn't recognize. To be very honest with you, I couldn't recognize, and I was not tracking any cars in the Nissan segment, so I was not in a situation to figure out which car this was. So went to office, opened up the Nissan India website, and then I realized this car was Nissan Kicks, and this was like a brand new entry into the market. And for some reason, the looks wise and the specification was wise, this was matching with everything that I had in my mind. And for whatever reason, I don't recall if the pricing was mentioned in the website, but everything else was like sort of uh, going in favor of my decision. So I just came back home that day. I spoke in my house about, I saw this specific car and all. So like, why Nissan? We're not even sure like how the car would be. And the previous car that they have launched in India was like about 7 or 8 years back, which was Nissan Sunny, and they are not pretty active in the market compared to the Hyundai or Marutis and things like that. But I thought, like, okay, let me go to the showroom, see the car in person, probably if I get a chance, do a test drive, and then take a decision. So I did all my groundwork. I did all the research. I did all my research on YouTube and articles and things like that. Eventually, one of the days, Saturday, I went there with my family to the Nissan showroom on Kasturba Road, and I saw this car, the very same car which I had seen in the petrol bunk, just parked outside, which was apparently a test drive car. I went in, and there was another one inside. I saw it, got all the details, checked the price. I thought, like, I should go for it. I'd almost decided I'll pick up the car then and there. I'll give the payment or do the advance booking or something like that. I sort of refrained myself from doing anything like that. I came out and I told my family that I sort of like this car because I'm spending quite a lot of money on a car, and this is the car in which all of us, me, my family, entire family, we travel wherever we want to go in this car, and I want everyone to be happy with this car. It's not like I am buying a car and I'm convincing them to sit in my car. It's like my car is the car which is there for my house, and it's like I want everyone to be happy in the car that I drive. So then we called them up again. We told them, why don't you bring down a vehicle so that we can have a test drive? A representative from Shawar Nissan on Kasturba Road. They got a car, I think it was a diesel model, if I'm right, a top end model of a diesel that they got. I took a test drive, and I think I took a very long test drive. Thanks to the folks there, they were very cooperative, and they told us, sure, you try whatever you want. And I just like drove all across the city, like this part of the city where I live in. It was like fantastic. I really loved the experience. I like the way, I mean, I was enjoying driving even if it was in the city on a Saturday evening. I just told I'm going for this car, and frankly, I had a specific date on which I wanted to pick up this car, and I was very sentimental about that. And I went ahead and I booked the car, and I picked up the car in June of 2019, and the total cost that it came up to was somewhere around 18 lakhs. And the model that I picked up was a top end diesel model. Apparently, in the top end diesel model, there are two options. One is a single color option, and there is a dual color option. The dual color option is about 40,000 or probably something more than that. But unfortunately, there were only two options, or maybe even just one option in the color. I was very specific about blue color, and they didn't have a dual color in blue. So I went for the single color top end diesel model, and I got it on the day which I wanted. And that was my whole process of selecting the car, and sort of I would say like that first love or love at first sight type of thing for my Nissan Kicks. Now, as of today, when I'm recording this video, it's about 9 months, I would say, that I've been driving this car, and I've done about 6,000 kilometers. And that's, I would feel that's pretty decent for how I drive and how frequently I use. But compared to what was happening in the past, my car usage has slightly reduced into the fact that I also have a bike which I primarily use for daily commute, and probably 50% of this 6,000 kilometers is what I was using my car for in the daily commute until my bike came into the picture. But of late, I've been using it only for weekend rides and for longer journeys with family or self. So now, having said all these things, I want to quickly touch upon the positive points and the negative points about this car, because that's the key thing about this video. Probably I would have spoken now for about 10 or 15 minutes already, and I've not touched upon the key points why I like this particular car. Now let's get into the point right away. The first and foremost thing, it's a fantastic and a very comfortable car. For a car of this size, and for somebody like who sits in the driver's seat, first thing is you should get the feeling of that thing that you are sitting comfortably, you're driving comfortably, and most importantly, you're enjoying your drive. So if you're not enjoying your drive, you'll not enjoy the car. It's as simple as there are few cars in the past where I've sat and like for whatever reason I've driven that car, and like I felt that okay, when will I stop driving? It was like so uncomfortable, be it the driving posture or the engine quality or whatever it is. Even the newer cars, I felt like I don't want to drive anymore. But this car is not like that. Right from the moment you sit into the car, you close the door and you put on your seatbelt, you will feel like you want to drive and you want to drive more. You don't want to stop, you want to drive more. That kind of feel this car gives. And that's exactly my top point, which I like this car more. It's very comfortable and it's very stable and sturdy. You can feel that you're sitting in a car and you're driving, maybe it's like 40 kilometer per hour in city driving condition, or you're ripping like beyond 100 or 120 kilometers per hour on a highway. This car feels very stable, and this is exactly the type of feeling I used to get even in my Polo. You're going fast in the highway, you don't feel any sort of insecurity in this particular car, wherein like okay, you don't know the steering wheel is vibrating or things are not in control. You feel very planted, And it's, as I told you, it's like you don't, nobody inside the car gets a feeling that the car is driving so fast, and you're in topmost control. Like there is no way that you're driving so fast, but still you're wondering like what will happen if I suddenly brake, what will happen if I have to suddenly slow down. You don't get that fear at all, and it's very planted car, as I told you. And one fact is that I've already driven this car and have touched a speed of about 160 plus with probably I think four people in the car, and it doesn't feel uncomfortable at all. It's very stable. It's very there's no vibration. There is no feedback that makes you feel uncomfortable at all. It's a very good car when it comes to the driving, and it feels premium. The moment you sit inside the car, it feels premium because unlike some of the other cars which I've seen in this segment, where the dashboard looks very plasticky or things are not fine in the steering wheel, the buttons, or probably even the display, the car feels premium. The two-tone finish, the leather finish that is there on the dashboard and the side panels and all, it gives you that premium feeling. This might not be a top-end car, this might not be in lines with any of the SUVs which is available in the market, but it actually feels very premium. And you feel that, as I told you, you sit inside the car, you get that sort of like a smile in your face that okay, the environment in which you're driving is very good. So that premium feel is there in this particular car. And another thing I was a little bit concerned about in my previous car, considering that it was a hatchback, is that I wanted a very good ground clearance. And considering that I sort of frequently travel outside the city with five people on board, the hatchback was trying to show me signs of lack of ground clearance. So ground clearance was something which I was very keen on, and this has beautiful and like it's very high ground clearance. Even if you want to go a little bit of off road, or you want to drive in guard section, you want to get off road and all those things, it absolutely has no issues whatsoever with the ground clearance. And another key thing that I was very looking forward to is the boot space. In a hatchback, you know what is the amount of luggage that you can keep in a car, and I was very keen on having a very larger boot space. And in this particular car, you just have to see it in person to believe the amount of boot space that is there in this car. It's a really massive. I think it's about 200 liters or something. That's what they call it. Probably I need to check back the spec sheet if it is right, but the boot space is huge. And when I say huge, I'm literally talking about it can easily fit in two full size suitcases, this international travel suitcases, and a whole lot of like other stuff like trolleys and bags full of eatables and my camera bag, everything. It can really fit in a lot of luggage in the boot, and it does not feel heavy at all. It's like very spacious, and it sits perfectly fine. You're not cramping anything, you're not pushing anything to make it fit there. The boot space is really very good, and these are some of the key things that I was very keen on such stuff. Like the looks should be good, the feel good factor should be there when you're driving it. It should be very stable, it should be very sturdy, and it should have a good ground clearance, and it should have a very good boot space. The legroom is very good, and even for the people who are sitting in the back, the legroom is very good. Three people can sit very comfortably in the back seat, even on a long drives. I have done a lot of long drives in this car with my family with three people sitting in the back, and I would say the leg space is fantastic in this particular car. So these are some of my key, I would say, positives about this car, which I really like. This is what makes this car stand out. I'm not sure if I can't talk about other cars because I'm not driven any other car in the same segment or the ones which I'm comparing to for like 5,000, 6,000 kilometers. But I somehow feel like when I sat in some of those cars, either to check it out or test drive or anything, I didn't get that positive vibes. But in this particular car, I got that sort of that feeling that I should go for this car. And this is what I mean. I repeat here again. This was what they call it as like love at first sight. So I really like this car, and that's why I bought this car. Now let's talk about few negatives, and some of these are like very forcefully picked up negative points, but there are a couple of them which I sort of get annoyed sometimes. But uh, let me list out a few of them. First of all, it's expensive. At 18 lakh rupees for what I would call it as a mini SUV or a crossover type of car, and which can fit in only five people, it's actually a very expensive car. Like if you see any other car in this segment, they're like slightly below this price tag. And as I told you, I wanted a cap at around 15 lakhs, but I like this car so much that I went for that extra buffer. I was okay with that. Somehow the other cars which were beyond 20 lakhs never gave me that push to spend that extra money. But this car, uh, it is expensive. That's what I would say. It's not meant for everyone, and it is expensive. So that's one of the key thing negative about this car. Second thing is now you're paying so much price for that car, and there are certain things that you miss out. And one of the things I felt missing out when I compare to the cars in the same segment is that sunroof. And for a very long time, even in my previous car, I was very keen on having a sunroof. And for whatever reason, Polo does not come with a sunroof, or at least not when I picked it up. And I felt that the next car that I would take should have a sunroof because quite often I take it out on long drives and when I'm driving in the forest areas and all things. I wanted to have this like at least like a panoramic sunroof or like at least a normal sunroof wherein I can open it when I'm driving it outside of the city or somewhere in the forest region. But unfortunately, even after paying so much price, the car itself does not have an option of sunroof, which I sort of felt it was missing. But I will live with it. I don't have an option. I don't want to modify the car to get a sunroof done. I don't want to take that risk. So sunroof is something which is missing in this car. The third most important thing, I mean, this is a generic one. Probably the sunroof was a very personal thing, but the third most um, specific thing that I want to talk about when it comes to the negative of this particular car is the after sale service. Now, going back to the statement that I made or the question that was posted in the Quora forum, which was like, why is that Nissan Kicks being such a good car? Why is that it is not getting sold so much, or why is that such a flop? It's all due to the after sale service. Like I've not done sort of like service at it's like once in a year or once in 10,000 kilometers, whichever is earlier. But for some reason, I feel that the reputation that Nissan holds, probably in South India or in India in general, they don't have that positive or a good reputation for good after sales service, whether be it the space or the quality of service that they give or the charges or anything. That's something which is bothering. I sort of had this in my mind quite a lot of times, like should I really take that risk? But then I felt these are like good top quality cars, and like you will drive it for like say 50,000 kilometers, a lakh kilometers, and at least in my previous car, Volkswagen being such an expensive car to maintain, even if it is a hatchback, I didn't get into a situation wherein I had to go for a repair or I had issues, or rather I had any major issues in the service. So I thought like, okay, it's once in a year thing. I would probably live with it because the car quality is good, and I would probably watch for it again. The car quality is so good that you probably don't have to worry too much about those service thing. Yeah, you have to go to them once in every year to get all your oil change, filter change, and all the stuff. But it is expensive, but it's okay. But what you get is a quality, but you don't have an option. There is only a handful of dealers here, at least in Bangalore for Nissan. I don't think so. There is any option, but until and unless there isn't any sort of like a breakdown or anything which would affect me or any other Nissan car owners who are there across the country, that should be okay. We are not talking about a reputation like Maruti or Tata or anything. But considering the car quality is good, I really hope that Nissan does something to make sure that this negative stigma that they have around them, that their after sales service is bad, at least they fix it to some extent, if not fully, at least to some extent. This is what I've been hearing a lot. I've not faced it anything yet because it's still new and it's still 9 months old for me. But I would say that after sales service is one of the bigger negative points. Next, I want to go for some of these smaller nitpicking things. Like these are very tiny ones. Like I mean, I'm forcefully taking this out, but this is something which I observed. In past, all my vehicles had been gray, be it my two wheelers or be it my car or anything. So I was very specific about having a gray car, but unfortunately, they didn't have a gray car. Whatever they call it as gray is not even close to gray, and it sort of looks like that titanium color, which I sort of didn't like it. This was not close to what I wanted. Secondly, I did get blue, which was my next top choice, but blue didn't have any option of dual color or anything. No different color roof compared to the body. So I mean, they don't have an option of dual color in the top end model for blue. That's again a negative which I felt they should have had an option, but I didn't get an option there. Thirdly, I would say. To be very specific, the display could have been better. It's a good, probably 9 plus inch display. It's a touch screen. It is loaded with decent features, but I somehow felt like it's not really that responsive at times. So when you're driving and suddenly you want to change something, and you want to go from maps to say access the phone or anything, it doesn't happen in one click. It's not really responsive. And even things like, okay, if you have kids in the house and if they're sitting in the front, there's a tendency that they will go and touch the display and things will get changed, or if you're in map and things will go. There is no option to disable the touch when you're using it or anything. There is a audio mute option, but there is nothing like disable touch when you're driving. But considering the fact that kids might sit in the front and they might touch and it might accidentally get changed or anything. But and I sort of like, for a car that you're paying so much and you have Android Auto and all those stuff, I somehow felt there could have been an option for more option in the display. There are three screens. I don't know. It's like two of the screens are really redundant. The static display screens, it does not show weather. It does not show time. I just have to change the screen layout from the default position every time I start my car to figure out what's the time. And only when it is connected to the car, only when it's connected to the mobile, somewhere in the corner it shows the weather, which is, I mean you're paying so much and it's a sort of like a high end car type of feel, and you could have given these options, and like, this can be fixed in a firmware upgrade, but I don't know. I have not got any firmware upgrade options yet from Nissan, so I don't think so. They're changing or adding any new features to it, so I have to live with whatever is there. But I really feel some more features could have been added onto the touchscreen, and it could have been slightly better quality than what it is. When I say quality, it's the touch responsiveness. Apart from that, the display quality is good, but the touch responsiveness is something which I sort of struggle at times. So it's not every time, but at sometimes. And the next one which I want to nitpick upon is this key, and it's a very awkwardly shaped key. It's like a flat credit card sized, and probably you can say like if you stack about five credit cards together, that's how fat and that's the shape of the key that it is. It's a keyless entry. It doesn't matter. It's there in your pocket, but the shape is so awkward that even when you're putting it in the pocket, it feels weird. Okay, they could have made it like a generic key fob, like so many other cars. Honda and all has keyless entry, and their looks good. And this one looks like a small plate, okay, and there's just like four buttons, which is there on one corner. There is nothing else in this particular keychain or key or whatever you call it. And I feel that the key shape could have been better. And even if you're hanging it somewhere, or if you're handing it out to somebody, like when you're giving it for valet parking, they look at it twice, like why is this key look so awkward? So that's how it is. But it's okay. It's a keyless entry, so I'm still fine with that. Next thing is the armrest, especially in the front. There is this one huge armrest between the driver and the pillion. It's fixed. It does not move front, back, or top down, or you can't flip it back or anything. It's fixed, and it's in such an awkward position that for my driving position, it's really have to juggle a lot to reach the handbrake when I'm stopping my car, because the handbrake is sort of hidden below that armrest. And it's not that I should tell like the handbrakes are hidden there, but the armrest is in such an awkward position and it's not movable. I can't even flip it back or anything. It's in such an awkward position that it's making it like really a stupid thing to have in the car. And again, this comes into picture only when I'm parking and I have to put my handbrake. But again, they could have made it like at least like slide it back. You should have been able to slide it back or at least lift it up when you're putting the handbrake, and that's like in a very awkward position. That's something which I don't like. The steering controls are good. There's a lot of dead space. There are two controls below the steering on your right, and I felt that some of the switches could have been present on the steering wheel itself, because on one side of it it's completely dead. Like they could have had some more, especially the audio controls for the phone or for the music system. They could have placed it on top of the steering itself instead of having it as a separate knob on the right side of the car. So it's like I felt that that was a little bit awkward to have, but again, it's just a matter of time. You'll get used to it, and once you get used to it, you don't even think that as a negative point. Probably one thing I missed out when I'm talking about the positive of this car is mileage. It's that one key thing that everyone will always be keen on knowing about the mileage. And as I told you, my car is a diesel car, and this is a top end model with very good AC and all that stuff. But this car gives a very good mileage both inside the city and outside, and especially when you're going outside, the mileage is fantastic. So I'm probably getting somewhere 23, 24 plus when I'm going outside, and that I feel is very good for the car of this size and the power that it has and the type of powerful AC that it has. Even with using full blast AC, driving with five people on board, I get a very good mileage, as I told you, 23, 24 plus when I'm driving outside of the city. And there has been at least like 2 to 3 trips that I've done in the recent past, all of which were like distance of like 200, 300 kilometers one way. And all that I did was I filled up the car with full tank of diesel. And even after I reached the place, and like rather, even after I have come back home, I see that there's still some fuel left. So mileage wise, it's very good. So what else do you need? The car is comfortable, the car is good, the car drives fast, it's stable, it's secure, it has a good mileage, it's very spacious, it has a very good boot space. What else do you need? So that's my thing. Like, the car is so good, it's just that people are not recognizing it. They just want to go by the notion that, okay, Nissan has a very bad reputation of after sales service, I don't want to pick up this car. And in fact, they're missing out a lot by going by this mindset. And whenever somebody talks to me, either in office or outside, when they see this car, when they ask me about how is this car, my response to them has always been positive. And I don't know, for whatever reason, they're not justified by the fact that the car is so good and it has a good mileage, it's comfortable and all those things. The one thing that is there in their mind is they feel that after sales service is good. Like, why should you really worry about after sales service when you're buying a car? And like, do you really feel that a good car will have to go to service so frequently, or you'll have to change certain things frequently, or something will break down so frequently? I don't think so. I never had that issue in your previous car. It all depends on how you drive, how you maintain your car, and how much do you love your car. If you can maintain your car well, there is nothing about the after sales service that you should be really worried about. It's a usual yearly service that you have to go, get your oil change, filters cleaned, and all the stuff, and it's done. Clean your car regularly, drive it in a good, decent pace. Don't drive rashly, don't drive haphazard when you're going off road and all those things. And it's all good. I don't think so people should get really carried away by the brand name that is available in India, the way, the type of reputation the brand name is kept in the country. So I would say I'm very very happy about the decision that I have made, the money that I have spent on this particular car. I'm pretty sure this car will last with me for a very long time. It's a very good car, and I would like to probably say like thank you Nissan for bringing this car into India. And I know it's like the sales number does not match what I'm talking, and like even like probably few months back when I spoke to one of my friends in the Nissan showroom, he told that the sales are just like three-digit figures from their showroom. I was shocked and surprised, but I would say like people are losing out on this one, like, by not choosing this. Like, I don't want to go and force people for this particular car. If somebody asks me what to do when which car to go for when they're buying a new car, because car is a very personal choice, and it's not something you can drive. It's not an influential thing that you can do it. So that's what I want to say about this car. It's very good. It's highly recommended. I mean, the plus point speaks to itself. There are very few handful of modifications or enhancements, sort of, I would call, that I've done for this car, and it's like very cosmetic thing. I wanted the dual tone look, so my car is a blue car. So I got a black matte wrap, vinyl wrap done on the roof for my car. That's something. It was just like a cosmetic and a very personal taste that I wanted to go for. So I've got a black matte wrap done on the top. I got the car coated in PPF. The place where I live, I have pigeon issues, and I don't want to spoil my car paint because of pigeon dropping. So I got a PPF done. Fortunately or unfortunately, I went for 3M as soon as I picked up the car. I didn't do enough research on it, and they were very expensive. I've heard about the quality that they're good and all that stuff, but again, it's very expensive. But it's protecting your car, so it's always good. I just took a couple of sunshade guards or whatever you can call it for the back seat, which came from the company itself. So it's just for the people who are sitting in the back. Uh, it's sort of illegal to have it in the front seat, but so the back seat has this sunshade type of thing. So sun film is not allowed here in India, so I went for the sunshade. Keeping this aside, I think all the default accessories that the company gives is top notch, and it will serve your purpose. You don't need anything more. Even as I told you, the sunshade or any of the cosmetic things that I've done is all personal taste. But having said that, the default, whatever accessories they give, is good enough. Probably might want to pick up an extra cover, depending on the place where you park the car. My car is always parked outside my house, so I went for a cover that I use every day, so to protect my car. So I think accessories or modification wise, there isn't anything that is required. So once again, I would probably say, if somebody is watching this video with a hope that I would give them a positive vibe or a positive news about this car, yes, please do take my word. This is a fantastic car. This is a very good car. The mileage, the speed, the stability, everything, the comfort, everything is very good in this car. So if you're really considering to go for Nissan Kicks, I would say go for it. Don't have a second thought. But if you really are keeping it as a second option, and if you feel that there are other cars which are like sort of driving you too much towards them, go for it. Buy what you like rather than going for something totally based on the review, because as I told you, it's a car is a personal taste, so go with what is in your mind. But from my end, all that I want to sign off this video is by telling that Nissan Kicks is a fantastic car. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.